Winter had come down on Willow Creek Valley with a severity people spoke of in hushed voices, as though naming it too plainly might make the cold sink even deeper into their bones. The hills stood silent, crusted with frost that refused to melt even when the sun climbed the sky, weak and white like a lantern low on oil. The wind moaned along the fences, lifting loose shingles from roofs and slipping through the cracks of old barns where starving animals huddled close. Smoke from the chimneys rose in thin, uncertain lines, as if every family feared wasting even a spark of precious firewood. The valley had known hardship before, but this year it felt different, sharper, tighter, unrelenting. The mill, which for generations had hummed through every season, now stood silent. Its wheel, once strong enough to turn whole livelihoods, hung motionless over the icy river. Men who had once walked its long wooden floor now sat on their porches, hands folded, hats pulled low, wondering how to stretch the last of the stored grain. The shop shelves in town grew barer each week. Families bartered instead of buying, traded instead of trusting coin. Children learned the shapes of hunger the way they learned their letters. Eli Turner belonged to one such family. The Turners were neither the poorest nor the most fortunate. They lived somewhere in that quiet middle where pride and need held careful balance. Their cabin sat on a small ridge, its wooden boards grey with age but sturdy enough to endure years of storms. Inside, Eli's mother stitched torn clothing with a skill born of necessity, while his father took whatever work he could, mending fences, chopping wood for neighbors who were worse off, helping gather fire logs from the thinning forest. Sometimes he returned home with frostbitten fingers and little to show for the day, except a tired smile meant to comfort his family. Eli was 11, small but wiry, with a stubborn spark of endurance in him, the kind that didn't boast or seek praise. Hunger had carved itself into his routine so gently that he barely remembered what it felt like to eat until he was full. On the morning the story truly begins, his mother handed him a single cornmeal biscuit, small, rough-edged, heavier with effort than calories. She watched him for a moment, hopeful yet apologetic without saying a word. Eli saw the apology in her eyes, the same eyes that had studied half-empty cupboards for weeks. He told her it was enough, though the biscuit felt like a whisper of food, hardly a meal. His lunch pail held only one more biscuit, wrapped carefully in thin cloth. Before stepping out into the cold, Eli paused at the doorway. The valley spread before him in dull whites and washed-out browns, a place both familiar and foreign under the weight of winter. The wind seized his breath and pushed against him as he walked, making the journey to school feel twice as long. The road was lined with families whose chimneys hardly smoked, their wood supplies dwindling, their livestock gaunt. Eli saw faces he recognized. Neighbors who used to call out greetings now walked with heads bowed, measuring their strength against the cold. The schoolhouse stood on a patch of frozen ground, its paint peeling, its windows fogged from weak fire inside. As he approached, Eli noticed something that pulled at him more deeply than the cold. Nora Avery sitting alone on a bench near the fence. Nora was a quiet girl whose gentleness made her seem smaller than she was. Her family had suffered the worst when the mill closed. Her father had been among the first to lose his work. Rumors whispered through the valley about their dwindling food stores and their nights spent huddled together for warmth. Nora's scarf was thinning, unraveling at the edges, and her boots looked too worn to keep out the cold. Beside her sat an empty lunch pail, a sight that said more than words could. Eli felt a tug inside him, a mixture of sorrow and recognition. Hunger had many shapes, and he could see every one of them in the way Nora kept her shoulders tight, her eyes lowered as if afraid to be seen. Inside the schoolhouse at midday, the children opened their lunches with a kind of desperate reverence. Some had a crust of bread, some a slice of dried apple, some nothing at all but pretended otherwise. Eli unwrapped his biscuit. It looked smaller than before. As though the cold had shrunk it, he held it carefully, guarding against crumbs falling away. His stomach tightened with a hunger he had come to expect. Nora sat rigid at her desk, hands folded, gaze fixed on a knot in the wooden surface. She did not look at anyone. She did not need to, everyone knew the truth. Eli stared at his biscuit and felt the weight of it grow heavier, not from mass but from meaning. He knew sharing meant he would walk home on an emptier stomach than usual. It meant wearing a dull ache through the rest of the day. It meant giving up something precious, something nearly irreplaceable. Yet he also knew what he had seen in Nora's eyes, a quiet endurance like his own, but stretched thinner, trembling at the edges. He thought of his mother speaking softly into the silence of their small kitchen. He thought of his father offering help to neighbors even on days when his own hands shook with cold. He thought of the old sayings carved into the beams of the schoolhouse decades ago: when times grow thin, hearts must grow wide. Before he could reconsider, Eli rose from his seat. The room quieted, even the wind outside seemed to hold its breath. He walked toward Nora's desk, each step echoing softly in the stillness. Nora looked up, startled, her cheeks flushing with embarrassment, shame, and something like fear that someone might notice her hunger. Eli broke his biscuit in half. The pieces were uneven. Instinctively, he placed the larger one on her desk. Nora stared at it, her lips parting slightly in disbelief. Her hands trembled as she accepted it, holding it delicately, almost reverently. Gratitude glistened in her eyes, but she said nothing. She didn't have to. The moment itself spoke louder than words. They ate together quietly. Around them, something unspoken shifted in the air. The teacher paused in the middle of writing notes, her eyes softening as she watched. Children glanced at one another, at their own lunches, at the empty desks of those who had even less. What Eli did was small, but in that smallness there was a spark, a reminder of who they were as a community, a whisper of warmth in a long winter. When school ended, Eli walked home with an empty pail but a strangely warm chest. The valley looked the same, the wind still biting, yet the world felt slightly different, as though the day had offered something meaningful back to him. Passing the Avery house, he saw Nora standing with her mother. The woman lifted her hand to her heart before waving in gratitude. Nora gave a small smile, shy but bright, the kind that warmed Eli more than any meal could. That evening, the Turner family gathered around a pot of thin stew, so thin the broth shone like weak tea. Eli ate slowly, feeling both the hunger and the quiet satisfaction of the day. His mother watched him longer than usual, as if trying to understand some change she sensed but could not yet name. Eli didn't tell her what he had done, but she seemed to know anyway. Mothers often did. In the days that followed, small ripples spread through the valley. A farmer left potatoes on the Avery porch. A widow offered wool scraps for Nora's scarf. Families who had been retreating into their own fear began stepping outward again. The preacher started a quiet exchange table at the chapel where people could leave food or take food without needing to explain. It wasn't much, barely enough to fight a winter that threatened to swallow them whole, but it was something. It was a beginning. Eli did not see himself as the cause of this change, and perhaps he wasn't. But sometimes a spark is all a cold valley needs to remember that fire is possible. He would remember that winter for the rest of his life, not for the hunger, not for the cold, not even for the hardships that seemed endless. He remembered it for the moment when he learned that sharing, even when it costs you something, enlarges your world rather than shrinking it. Hunger may have pressed against the ribs of every child in Willow Creek, but kindness filled the spaces hunger could not reach. And in that quiet valley, wrapped in winter's grip, a boy with almost nothing had discovered the simple truth that generosity, no matter how small, warms more than the stomach. It warms the soul, the home, and the heart of a community strong enough to endure anything, so long as they endure it together.